Welcome back to You've Been Told.
Yo, Banjo!
Minnesota podcast coming to you live from St. Paul. Well, tomorrow it'll be recorded. But let's see what we got for our top four issues today. Just recently found out Congressman Tom Emmer, Republican, majority whip in the House, is having a serious health issue. Got reported over on Blue Sky. And what could happen if the worst thing happened? That means, does it happen in the primary? That's only next week. Or does it happen during the general election? And then how do you replace a congressional candidate? I think it's probably just going to be a party endorsement that they'd advance somebody else in the field. But, people don't like to talk about what the inevitability is in certain situations like that. But politically, there's always an implication. And so we'll touch on that one. And then we got to talk about Mike Lindell's pillow problems. I was dealing with it yesterday because I'm the witness. I'm the one that they took and they used the information in court before the Office of Administrative Hearings. And you know what? He admitted it. He's going to get a fine, I expect. But we won't know truly what happens until probably Thursday. We're going to get an administrative hearing result, and that'll decide if it goes to a 3-judge panel. And it probably will. My prediction is it does. Then I think the Republican Party chair, Alex Plecash, reads my website, checks and balances, because he's calling for something that I started talking about in June, that we should figure out whether Mike Lindell was actually a resident of Minnesota within the 1-year period of time before he could run. So we'll talk about that. And the last thing is, we're in St. Paul. I think we got to talk about defending the capital city mayor. If this was a guy that did it, it's a different question. But, where are we at when a woman is accused of sexual harassment? I don't know. I've got a few really good people here in the room. Somebody I'd like to introduce you to. You may know her already. She was a mayoral candidate herself. Yan Chin. Doctor in, what are you a doctor in again?
Biophysics.
Biophysics. And one of my favorite type of teachers. I got a social studies teacher in here. I've got Sylvia Vasquez. She's Education Minnesota Latinx, right?
Yes, I am.
Well, I think I got a robust group. Let's see what we can get to. So let's go to the top of the agenda here. I want to talk about process. I'm a process guy. So if Tom Emmer were to unfortunately not be available for the election and demise, what is the process for replacement? It's a kind of a social studies teacher question, isn't it? What do you got for us, Sylvia?
I'm just trying to listen to what you have to say. I just feel like with his own issues, I'm just reminded of Biden, right?
Mhm.
With the last debate, and when we realized this guy just can't move on,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a scramble to find somebody to take his place, and that's kind of where I'm at with Emmer and these health concerns of his. Is where are we going to be next week when we start looking at, do we have to replace him with another candidate, and will there be a rush? And when there's a rush and there's no thought process and no plan put in place, then what is left for that? And what will we get? Will it be something worse or would there be an improvement? And so I think I'm kind of mulling that over and really kind of looking at what needs to happen there.
It's real fresh information. I mean, it literally came on my drive in here today. Yan, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, I guess first of all, how old is he
Mm-hmm.
and how long he has been in Congress?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's really a lot of things to talk about that.
Well, I think the idea of having an age limit is something worth considering, and I actually got to say the bar should be no more than 75. That's my mind. I don't think anybody should serve in office, anybody older than 75, right? You have a time limit.
I would say much more how long you have been in the same job, right? So that's I really don't
That's
want.
experience, though. I got to tell you, experience in the institution is important too. It's
I
continuity.
understand, but I think at a certain point, I think it is really, I think that so it's a combination issue to me. It's really the age plus experience.
Mm. Well, also, each body does not have a rule on when you're supposed to report a long distance illness or a long duration illness. And they don't have anything when it's, associated with either the Senate or the House. And they're both independent bodies. They'd have to do their own rule on this. But I actually think if you're going to be gone for more than a week, you should have to have a report that's rendered on your expectation, what's happening to you, and that should be reported to leadership. Or what do you guys think about that?
I think transparency always good.
I think that's a very good
As
point.
as the elective official, I think transparency is very important.
I agree. I agree. It is. It's really important to be able to say, to know your capacities, right? And to be able to say, I just can't at this moment. And the reasons are because of, this or that. Because when you don't do that, then you're really closing off your constituents, right? You're really telling people that the job's going to get done. I'm relying on the job to get done, right? And so when you're not doing it, I'm going to question that, and I'll be judging you more harshly with that because you weren't honest and open to tell me that your capacity at this moment isn't in the job and it's more in your health. I think I'd be more understanding with the health.
Well, I remember when, Mitra on the city council here in St. Paul knew that she had overwhelming pressures and she resigned. But then I look at Minneapolis and, Aisha Chuktai, she wants us to pay for, or she wants the citizens of Minneapolis to pay for her mental health while she takes a break. No, you're not doing your job. Goodbye. You should resign. All right? But no, they want to suck on the system. I don't know. I don't think so. Not my world.
I wouldn't using sucking on the system, right? That's really crude. And I would rather say it is really, I think, being an elected official, you really think about the responsibility. And I don't mind. I think Minneapolis residents wouldn't mind she recover. But I think as long as she has a
As long as she can do her job at the same time, that's what I'd say. So,
And
anyhow,
you step into that job knowing that it's going to be hard, and it's going to be mentally, challenging as well.
mhm.
So, why am I going to turn around and say it's your fault that now I'm having mental issues, right? And so, you step into it knowing that you are the voice for people that voted you there, and
In your absence,
your absence.
right? And I'll actually say this too. Well, she's a DSC person. Maybe it's some political issue there. All right. Let's move on. Mike Lindell pitching pillows. I was in the courtroom. I guess I got the most to say about this because I was there, and I'm the witness. Hey, the witness is right here, and I'll tell you, Mike Lindell admitted he did it. All right, but he wants to talk about the value of this pillow.
do people understand the issue
I'm
behind it?
gonna give you the backfill on this, okay?
Good.
So I was at the Delano parade. I witnessed Mike Lindell pitching pillows. I went up to him. I talked to him. I said, "Hey, Mike, do you know your violation of the Twinkie law?" Some people started talking about the Twinkie law, and nobody ever knew what it was. And in fact, I was talking to the Ramsey County elections director about it today, and he says, "The Twinkie law! Oh my God, I know the Twinkie law." So it's like all us insiders know this issue back and forth. And so when I'm finding out what's going on, I know what Lindell did. I asked him out, and he says, "Well, I've talked to my lawyers. We got all our I's dotted and T's crossed, and our lawyers knows what was going on. And I said, yeah, are those the same lawyers that you used for the Dominion case? and I said, well, if they are, you should get a new team, And then when he gets me on cross-examination yesterday, he says, do you know the Dominion case got dropped? and I'm like, no, and ask me if I care. I don't care, But he wanted to make that point. That was the first point he wanted to make in his cross-examination. But the point that was belabored, and it is wrong. The complainant, Dan Fiscum, when he was talking about it, Mike Lindell's response was wrong. They're talking about the idea of $5. Okay, $5 is the John Marty laws that passed in 1994, and it's about a lobbyist and what they can buy for a legislator. Okay, it has nothing to do with campaign finance in this regard. All right, they're both off topic. They're both off the what they should be talking about in this case. Lindell wants to talk about, it was a $9.90 pillow. And, if you contact us, you can get a $5 discount. That drops it to $4.90. And that gets below the $5. Well, guess what? Who cares? We want to talk about how many pillows were pitched. How much did they cost when you bought them? Did you get a discount when you did it from yourself? Or did you have a premium that you're charging for it so that you lined your own pocket and, here's one, pun intended, feathered your own nest, But the issues with Lindell, he's out there. He is a Trumpy. He is he is a mentally challenged individual. I will just say, I'll even use the word nuts, but that might be a little disparaging. I understand. Sorry, Mike, you're not listening anyhow. But the case seems to me to be clear that it's going forward to the 3-judge panel, and they will rule if there's a penalty, if there's remediation. Any of those factors will be judged, and that ruling probably will come through on Thursday. That said, if there was a corporate contribution, as I said, if he charged a premium or he charged a discount, the discount would give him the opportunity for maybe that advantage coming from a corporation. That's a corporate contribution. That's problematic. That's another possible issue. But there we go. I think that's the bulk of this issue as it is. Different outlets are waiting, and I was interviewed yesterday on WCCO, Esme Murphy. It was really nice, and she gave me an interview, and we talked. Other people can always reach out to me if they want, and, my number is 612-990-3099. Call anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I shouldn't say that. I'll probably get a lot of phone calls. Whatever. I'm worried. I don't like to sleep anyhow. Now, Mike Lindell, staying there. Alex Plekesh, the chair of the party, must have been reading checks and balances. I said it early. Sure, I'm repeating myself, but it's the case that he may not have been a resident within the 365 days. He provided some pay stubs, but the pay stubs say August, and that might be enough to clear this issue up. But when you're having the chair of the party basically attack you or questioning your veracity, that's an issue. And either of these two issues on Lindell, anybody want to talk about?
I think you're having fun.
No, I'm having a blast.
I'm having fun just listening to this.
Well, thank you very much. Maybe the listeners that are on the other side of the screen are going to feel just like you do, Sylvia. In fact, I hope so. So, if we look at the world through Mike Lindell's lens, I don't know what we see. But he actually announced today that he's stepping down as CEO of the MyPillow company to focus his entire attention on his campaign for governor. Now, when I looked at the numbers, a couple of polls, he's leading in all the polls I've seen. There have only been 2, but he's got an 8-point increase over Lisa Damath.
Which I find really interesting.
Or it's an increase.
You
but,
told me
yeah.
this last night.
Yeah, okay.
And I find this really interesting because, if he's leading by 8 points, right, and then and he's leading because Trump endorsed him.
That is
Right.
that
And
was the
then
bump.
and then
Right.
but then Trump has, his job, or the way people are looking at him, it's very low, right?
Yeah.
And so I just find that so interesting and so hard to understand, is these people that just don't support Trump anymore, but yet they're going to listen to him on this candidate.
I guess really coming back to its base, right?
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of Republican might not be really just in terms of party, but much more as the ideology. But so yes, so it
Well,
would be very interesting to see the turnout for the primary.
well, yeah, the numbers, if I can just read you the numbers. Lindell's showing 35% right now. Lisa Damath is 26. The endorsed candidate, Kendall Qualls, though, has only got 11.
Wow.
And so he's in the basement, But I wrote on checks and balances, if Lindell were to be removed from the ballot based on residency, and that I was talking about, it should happen after the primary, because then Lisa Damath wouldn't get in. But the question is the Republican Executive Committee who would make the decision, are they wise enough to say, hey, we should go with Damath because she's second place, versus the Republican endorsed candidate, Kendall Qualls, who the party has already endorsed? But what's more valuable, the party endorsement or the ability to try to win in the fall? I can't speak for Republicans. I learned how to talk Republican. Does anybody know how to talk Republican? Take any of your intelligent thoughts and do the opposite. That's what I think. That's talking Republican.
Yeah.
But anyhow, all right, we're gonna move on to a real important issue.
Just
Go ahead.
one thing.
Sure.
Wah, wah.
Are you giving me a wah wah wah?
I am.
Are
I
you
am. Yep.
giving me the
Yep. I don't. Yep.
are you giving me the Peanuts adult voice?
Yep. I am.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we're gonna put a poll up and we're gonna have a vote whether you get to come back. I mean, when you insult the host on the first visit. All right,
And it won't end there.
We're gonna take a little break. We'll be right back because you've been told. Welcome back to You've Been Told. So, primary day. It's coming up in 1 week from today. The only race that I think is important is the U.S. Senate race on the DFL side. Now, everybody's got opinions. I got mine. I wrote it on checks and balances. I think that if Peggy Flanagan were to win the DFL endorsement, or it's actually not the endorsement, it's the nomination. She already has the endorsement. But if she were to win the nomination in the primary, I think she's beat by Michelle Tafoya. That's my thoughts. I've already said it. I'm putting it out live and in charge. That's what I got to say. Everybody else gets opinion, including you, Mark, on this one. You can have opinion on this one if you want. I know you don't have a mic, but if you can sign to me or something. I'll betray your numbers. Okay, go ahead. Who wants to start?
Oh boy, I'm starting again.
Lead, follower, get out of the way.
Well, I really would like to get out of the way. I just want to listen first before I speak. I do have good things to say about Flanagan, and I like I mentioned before, I was at the political conference and I moderated a debate between Flanagan and Angie Craig, and I just the just listening to other BIPOC teachers that were at that conference, we really talked about how we could connect with Flanagan, and we really liked her for that reason. She just knew her heart kind of really matched ours. And not that I'm a bleeding heart, but
I've seen drips.
yeah. But I just feel like, there's, as a BIPOC individual myself, and some of the challenges that I've gone through throughout my whole life, she really knew what I was talking about when I would talk about poverty, or I would talk about not having, and really working hard to be where we're at now. And so I think that's where I really, or she won me over. Um, and there's a lot of us that felt the same way, that she really could connect with a lot of the issues that we were facing. And we're just, this was also, the conference was right after, you know, ice surge. And so for me, it was so raw, and it was so fresh, and it was right there, that finding or seeing a candidate that really cared and really understood really was a refreshing thing to have.
That's actually really beautiful. I think, to be honest with you, I had a similar impression about the personality, right? I think I really like Peggy Flanagan for the same way, for whatever reason. I think I do like her in terms the warmth and the I I think what she fighting for. But so here is a little bit of the issue is really the strategy, right? Because I'm much more the person who say, hey, let's look at the result. And that coming back to my background coming from China. And the fact is, I think it was early told me or through his through personal experience because I was born right after the cultural revolution. And so there was really a lot of reflection I had to do when I was a teenager. And to think about the word, the communist, because China was a sort of a transition from communist country to sort of still we are communist, or China still is communist, but it's now it's capitalist in its core, right? And so, but the question is, I think there's really a lot of beauty and a lot interesting thing offered in the ideology as a final goal. But is this the right way to achieve that goal? That's really what I'm questioning. And that's what I think I personally don't think so. That's in a way why I also jump into politics, because I think the strategy is almost to simplicity, not to take a human um, diversity, the diverse human reaction into account. And so that's, I think really that is the reason why I have a lot of reservation for progressive movement. It's not the idea, it's not their result, what they wanted to achieve, because I'm all for it. But I just don't think the direction they are taking is realistically able to carry it out. Because if you look at the result from other country, and at the end of the day, you have to admit there is something lacking in that idea. You know, it's not that I shouldn't say idea. There's something lacking in terms of the operation side.
Well, as the pragmatic at the table, and actually, when we were on our podcast the last time, my friend John Lesh, I said to him, "Well, John, I'm kind of a pragmatic," and he told me, "Toll, you're the most pragmatic guy I know." So, as a pragmatic person, I will have to say, last thing on this, that the one candidate that I think we have to worry about is Peggy Flanagan running against Michelle Tafoya. And why that's a problem is because I don't think she can beat her. Mark, every race matters. Vote. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I love Mark.
Especially the African Americans care about that. Ha, ha, ha. Anyhow, all right. Then we got one more topic to talk about. We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be back. And you've been told. Welcome back. We got a real significant issue here, and that is the allegations of sexual harassment by St. Paul Mayor Kaohly Her and the police chief Axel Henry. Now, we tried to get her on the show for this, and they're basically they're playing duck and cover or whatever you want to say. She's hiding in a hole. I hear she's supposed to be out tonight during National Night Out, but I don't know if she's going to stand for any questions with anybody. She's probably going to avoid. That's what I'm hearing that her lawyers are saying. Let the case play out. I don't think that's a political move that I would support, because I think if you put your head in the ground, your butt's in the air, and that's where you get kicked. And I just think that you need to address. You need to at least give somebody some understanding that you're still working. You're still doing the job. You still care about potholes. You still care about the trash getting cleaned up. They're closing down the Pig's Eye homeless encampment. That happens tomorrow, and so that's a pretty big issue. Now, I know one person at this table has a point about that very moment in time, and that would be a challenger to Kaohly Her. That's sitting right here at the table. Yan Chen, what do you got to say about the Pig's Eye issue?
First of all, I don't think I was challenged of her, right? Because I think at that time when I jumped into the race, I was challenging Melvin Carter. And it was nothing personal issue. It was really, I think, the city, when I look at the city budget, I worry about the direction of the city. And so that's why I jumped into the St. Paul mayoral race last year. Well, I think that's the issue about the Pig's Eye is really, I have been mentioned even during the campaign. We have to do something about it. And that is, but in order to do it, it's really a complex issue, and we should really have a very good coordination. Because that's really, I think, the importance of what really will make a issue become, you can tank an issue or you can boost an issue. So if, I think the idea is St. Paul do need to worry about safety. But on the other hand, there is also the coordination. How can you transition people out? How can you help them? And so I think the fact is we don't know the detail. What are they going to do in terms of how much coordination they have done was the county side and was all the other organization. So the fact is, if I don't have all the information about that, I wouldn't really commenting on whether it's going to be a successful operation or bad operation. But I think you can make this operation highly successful. That is by really help people to transition out, right? Give them, make sure they start to have much more safe environment and connecting them with the resource they need versus just haphazard to pushing people out from the camp. So I think let's see after August the 5th.
Well, as a former homeless veteran, I know, and I didn't have any problems. I wasn't on the street, but I couch surfed a lot. And what I will tell you is probably about a third of the people that we're talking about, they're veterans. All right, veterans have more services available. And in my case, getting a HUD-VASH voucher is probably what the best thing is. That's like a Section 8 voucher, but it's only for veterans that are homeless. And that saved me. And if that's available for these people, which I know it is, they do an emergency thing. They got to go through some process. But MACV is an organization, Minnesota Assistance Council for Veterans, which is just down the road from where I want to do some building. And what's happening there is you get in their system, they find transitional housing for you, then they wait for you to get your HUD-VASH voucher, and then they help place you.
How hard for you to get that voucher?
It wasn't hard at all. I just had to wait. It took time. And the time wasn't significant, but they expect you to get the HUD-VASH voucher within the 6 months that they want you in transitional housing. And what transitional housing was is I was in a house that had a number of rooms in it, and we turned around and lived in the house, and we all used the kitchen and had all the amenities and had a bathroom downstairs where I lived and had one upstairs where everybody else was, and everything was cool. And you came from all different branches. I lived with Marines. I lived with the guys that were, in the from the Army, and then I'm the lone Coast Guardsman. And so, what you learn though is that's the time that you exchange information with each other. You know, so but let's talk about Kaohly Her. You got anything to say about the mayor? Any advice?
Oh, I just feel like in her situation right now with the sexual harassment, I look at it as being um she's a woman, she's BIPOC. We don't want her there. Let's figure out a way. And when I say we, I'm just talking about all the entities around her. Um, let's figure out a way that we can make this look bad, um, and make her look bad. You know, so I just feel that there's a little bit of trying to find a good way to say this, but I just of racism, and she's a target, unfortunately, and she's trying to be silenced, and she's being silenced by not allowing her to come forth and even come here and also speak with us, but also that you know the way that this has been handled, the way that this has gone on, and there has to be processes put in place when when you become a leader, that you have advisors to help, advise you in order to be able to communicate with your police force or communicate with other members of the city council. All of the things that it takes to be able to communicate in a proper way, in a professional way, should be put in place instead of, okay, they voted you in, there's a job, take it, and you want to make relationships with people, but you're doing it in the wrong manner. And I think and I feel that this is what she was doing, is trying to make relationships to be able to work in a manner that everybody's heard, but it just didn't work
Well, she tried to be a buddy, and when
well.
you're the
Exactly.
CEO, you can't be a buddy with the people. In the military, they call it fraternization. You can't have the enlisted and the officers, communing. So we're gonna take another break, and we'll be back because you've been told. Welcome back to You've Been Told, and our topic that we're discussing right now is some advice, maybe some thoughts. I know this happened. The lawyers for the mayor's office are advising her not to talk to anybody until the case is over. That's what I was told by her communications people. They did not want her here. But again, uh, the ability for you as a political entity is only best filled when you are showing people or telling people how you're still doing your job. That's my failing on that. That's my core belief system. And I want to know what she wants to do. I want to know what more has yet. What is being not done because of what's happening right now? And also, I want to talk about motivations. Is Axel Henry got an axe to grind? Is that kind of fun? Axel axe. But Axel Henry might have an axe to grind because he's a Melvin Carter appointee. And I've heard talk that there's actually some motivation that's coming out of this from Melvin Carter himself, the former mayor, that he's kind of throwing some monkey wrenches into the gear.
I sorry to say that. I don't like how you talk about this issue, right? I mean, because the fact is, I think Axel has been, I assume he's very professional. And from all what I can observe from him, I think he will. So I think there is a gap. And to the mayor's defense, I know she's very personal. She's very warm, right? Because
She's kind of touchy feely too.
yes, and so I mean, to me, I love it, and but not necessarily everybody like it, right? So I get that, And so the question is, so to me, this is really, it could be a personal style different. And so do we need to, I think in a way, I really want to wait and the see to understand, is anything really much more, there is a personal difference versus really substance, when you do something really inappropriate. So I think I want to wait, but I just don't want to right now blame on anybody. But I really hope our city still remember um, what she was elected for. And that's coming back to the article I just read about from Cohenson. I think I disagree. I think in the article, he said that the only reason she got elected was because Melvin didn't run a good campaign. And is that true? Maybe, maybe not. But I would say really for me, from my point, is she was elected with a mandate. That mandate is let's look at our fiscal picture of City St. Paul. And I think that was very important because that message resonated with the residents. Because we realize, I mean, come on, look at our property tax. This is outrageous. When our city is the poorest of the among all the metro area, compared with our average income versus the tax burden, this is not acceptable. And where the money, what happened to our city tax base? This is all very legitimate question we should ask about our city. What happened to our city's tax base? Why our city tax base is deteriorating year by year? So I think, and therefore our property tax is increased year by year. So this is all very legitimate question we should ask. And so I don't think it's so I think she was elected with a clear mandate, and she should answer that mandate, and she should work on the mandate. And was she maybe a little bit too much focused on the personal relation building? I mean, yes, I agree, because she coming from a legislature background. Building relationship is her strength. And I'm pretty sure she is doing it because she is in a new environment, work with all the department, and maybe she was not proper trained for certain things. So I agree, there's something can be done differently. But nevertheless, I think it's very important for the city of St. Paul to realize she was elected with a mandate.
No, she was not elected by mandate. She was elected by plurality. And the voters that actually voted for you first and second for her, your voters got her elected. That is known fact.
I say people liked the message what I put out, right? Because it is important. That's really coming back why I have issue with the progressive side. It's not because the idea what they're able to achieve, but the idea I love it. It's really the execution. And I thought through the campaign, we made that very clear. We need to look at the execution. We need to look at how each department operates and what's the result, what's the performance. So I'm really hoping our city can re-engage this conversation because this conversation is important. And at the end of the day, this year, I mean, the property tax going to coming out very soon, but it's probably much more consequence of the previous administration. But I think they really should looking forward for the next year because next year it is a showcase of their own administration. And I think they better work on it right now.
The Kaohly Her administration is going to be releasing their budget on the 13th of August. And so that's, just after the election, 2 days, Thursday. And the interesting issue is that because she comes from the legislature, she's used to a 2-year budget cycle. So they're actually doing some implementation or some perspective shaping of how they would do a 2-year budget, right? And so that's going to be part of the plan. And then because she has a 3-year term because of this current election cycle, thank you to the fact that we're finally going to be on an even year keel with our elections for municipal offices. Then, and hopefully it gets rid of ranked choice voting too, because I can't stand that system. But what's going to happen is we're going to see a different viewpoint of the budget. And with a 2-year picture, we can deal with things. But we got a $26 million deficit. And I have an answer. I mean, Craig Leopold and the Minnesota Wild aren't going to like me, but hey, why is it that a tenant in the Grand Casino Arena, formerly the XL Energy Center, why is it a tenant gets all the revenue from non-hockey events? No, the city should get that revenue, and we wouldn't have a deficit. All right. Now I've talked to Lieutenant, not Lieutenant, he's deputy mayor, Nick Stumelanger. Good conversations with him regularly, and I've said the same thing to him. I've said it to city officials. I'm saying it now. And when Craig Leopold, if he wants to come on the show, we'll let him. But justify it. I don't see any justification where a tenant is subletting a building. Okay, when I mentioned I was talking to the elections director, David Triplett, and he said, it's been asked of me many times, why don't we do early voting in the arena? Great place, great space. They could, but the Wild wanted to charge them $50,000 to rent. It's a city property. They should just say, okay, come on in. They're not smart enough to do that. They want to gouge every time. And then, oh, gee, Leopold and his company, they bought the St. Paul Hotel. They're not short on money, So, look, I mean, again, I'm not going to be popular with a certain cohort of people, but ask me if I care. I don't. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
Well, I actually would say to you is it's a much more severe issue than what you portrayed, right? You make it sounds like it's a silver bullet. Everything will be solved because of that. And I can tell you honestly, I look at our city budget compared with Minneapolis city budget. One of the things that was striking to me is the Minneapolis city budget were tracking every revenue source carefully, one by one. And I think there is really a lot of deficiency in our city. Somehow just money evaporated, the revenue just gone. And that's important. We don't track every revenue as carefully as we should. Now, Wild is a good example. We should getting something, right? But I think we don't know. The devil is in the detail. Should we look into it? Absolutely. What would be the number? I don't know the answer. But I can guarantee you it's not going to solve the $26 million issue. If we want to seriously look at our budget, we really have to look at our revenue. Let's dating back another 30 years. Let's trace it to see where did we losing all our money. What happened to our city tax base? So I think, yes, there's really a lot of reflection our city has to do. And that's actually really, I think it's the time we need to bring this conversation back on the table. And
All right, I want to just say something. When you bring a real scientist in the room and you've got us social scientists, it's a big difference in the conversation. And I hope the audience is appreciating that. I just wanted to highlight hard science on the right, soft science to the left, soft science in the middle.
I actually don't think it's a soft science. It's much harder science, because
Right.
it is easy. Actually, a lot of times with the so-called hard science, it's a lot easier to deal with. Actually,
Right.
the soft science, the so-called soft science, it's actually much more challenging.
I think probably because it's more of a bigger
That's
picture, and
exactly.
there's so many more different perspectives that you got to bring into this.
Nuance,
That's right.
subtlety,
Yes,
That's
you know.
right.
and I
And
just
actually, it's why I like women in office. I'll be honest with you. I actually, all of my mentors are women.
right.
Okay, I'll name them off for you. Or I love to right now. Loyal Thilchin, my first political science instructor in Anoka Ramsey Community College. Maureen Gallus, the former director of elections in Anoka County. Her sister, Beth Yulberg. I can't remember what Beth did, but she did love Mike Hatch as a governor candidate. And she was the third congressional district chair for the DFL. And the last but not least is uh, is Elaine Voss, the deputy secretary of state. I had great conversations with her, and she trained me and taught me the whole legislative process. And those are my people. You know, not all of them are with us anymore. Marine's still around, but that said, that's who groomed me in politics.
Well, I was just going to come back to what you were saying, and I really agree with you that we really have to look at, where is the revenue coming from and where is it going? And, even looking at all of the fraud that's happened in our state, it just really has to give somebody something to sit back and say, we need to look at this. We need to look at where this revenue is going.
And what was
And
the situation that was created for the opportunity?
exactly. And I mean, is the pig
Systemic
is
reform.
right, but is the pig's eye going to be Cowley's legacy? Is just emptying it out, with no real plan, and then we're going to look at the finances for the next 2 years, and where she stands with that. I mean, we really have to look at and investigate where is all this money going. This is our capital, and
Absolutely.
she is a
It's
leader.
I like to tell
She's
everybody it's everybody's city.
right,
This
and
the capital is your city just as well as if you live in Blaine, Coon Rapids, if you live in Duluth,
exactly.
you live in Rochester,
Right.
Bemidji.
But
It's
but
your town.
but it's just and she is leading that. She is leading that, and she needs to have that support in order to be able to look at what she needs to do for this. This is a wrench. This is a big wrench in her own political, area. And where is she going to move from that? And if she's being silenced right now and she can't speak because of this
Advice.
yes,
Advice.
advice. I mean, it's another woman being silenced. It's another BIPOC woman being
Yep.
silenced and told to be quiet, know your place, sit down, shut up.
Yeah, and I know I'm never going to be in that fight with you.
That's right.
But I think she
Oh
still
no, I'd be
has,
in that fight with you though.
but she still has the ability to talk about other things,
Yes.
right? Because that's, I think, really what the residents, I think it's actually right now, it's more urgent for her to start to have that conversation. Maybe even
Not,
have, yeah,
not talk about what she's going through right now, but talk
yeah,
about what needs to be done in the city.
I agree.
She needs to be standing up for that. She
Yeah.
needs to be standing up for her constituents. She needs to be standing up, not so much, if she's going to be talking about, oh, I did this wrong. No, 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 no. You need to get out there and you need to start saying, we need to do this. We need to look into this. We need to fix this. We need to, if we're going to get rid of all of these people at the Pig's Eye encampment, where are they going?
Exactly.
You know,
Even rally people to ask for help,
right,
right?
right.
Because that's really, I think she has the power. Nobody else has that kind of power. And just really work with all the organization on the ground. Because that's actually really, she can shine. That's really, it's important.
That's showing your leadership.
Yeah, but I
That's
also want to talk
absolutely.
about one factor, which is as a former athlete, okay? I was involved in a lot of locker room talk, okay? And I've had people, women, that tell me, you've never been in a women's locker room. Well, they didn't know. No, I'm not going to talk about that story. But it's the case that when women are in a locker room, I understand. I've not been there, but they're kind of like guys. They might talk about, hey, what do you think of this? And, whatever. I don't want to get into details, but it's like locker room talk is locker room talk.
Yeah, Shawn, time change.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm also sorry that, I
When's the last
just
time you were in a
I
locker room as a scientist?
I just feel like like sometimes the perspective of a male is, is just so they go by what they know,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I just feel like as a woman, I don't hear or never have I seen locker room talk like that, you know, as an athlete as well.
Yeah.
And I guess we just don't talk about conquests and, you know, breasts,
Guess what? We
you
don't have
know.
anything else to talk about.
Right, right. But
We are
again, there was a
visual
there was a book
cues.
there was a
Men.
book written, Sean, that says Mars, Venus,
Yes, yes,
and
yeah. I
I mean
read it. I read it.
there is a big difference.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I mean, we don't
And it's
talk about
another
those.
language,
Yeah,
and guess what? Needs a translator.
exactly.
That's called a marriage counselor.
I just think it's called knowing your audience or knowing your
Yeah,
spot.
yeah. No. Well, you know what? I tell you, I am so glad to have you ladies here. I think it's giving a nice spice to the conversation level. I think that what we will get out of this will be one of the epic podcasts that we've done, at least out of the first two. It's going to be number one. But hey, I'm giving you markers. There's and actually, if anybody is watching this and you want to comment on the host, you want to comment on the guests, the panelists. We call this the scrum, by the way. We're calling this the scrum. And another little athletic term. And yeah, men always talk in athletic analogies and things like this, sports analogies and whatever. But we want to welcome you back next week. We haven't got our topic set, but if you have any suggestions, we'll take them. It's going to be election day. We were gonna go and try to find an event and go. There aren't any. There are going to be maybe small parties. Peggy Flanagan will have a party. Angie Craig will have a party. Amy Klobuchar, I don't even know if she's having a party. It's like I got to call a campaign. I got to ask. But there's nothing. I called the DFL to ask them if they had anything planned, and nothing planned. So it's going to be candidate based, and we'll see what happens. And so we're not going to do a live stream. We will do that during the general election, of course. But I will tell you, I'll be parked in front of my computer. It's sitting right here. I'll be parked in front of my computer reading the numbers. It's not for me. This is like a Super Bowl. I want to know what's happening and what moves forward. So I'll ask you guys one last question. All right. Where are you getting your sources? What do you use for your information sources? How do you gather?
Pioneer Press.
Oh, okay.
The same. The
Okay.
Pioneer, New York Times. Even just watching my local news.
Yeah.
But
I was on it last night,
I saw that.
Uh-huh.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I turned down the volume though.
Oh, God, it's a tough crowd. Man, I got shots from the right. I got shots from the left. I mean, I feel like I'm a punch drunk,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'll tell you what,
It's
I have no
really-
problem. Hey, I love it when I have intelligent women around me. It always makes me better. Thank you very much. And you've been told. And as you saw, we went through what would happen if the inevitable happens to Tom Emmer. And, we'll see what happens when that comes up. But Thursday is when I'm expecting that we're going to get the Mike Lindell information, and he's not going to like it. He's not going to be happy. And, and we'll see what the Secretary of State says in regards to the residency issue and what Mike Lindell has to prove to make it legitimate. And we just bounced around on the issue of the mayor of St. Paul. Again, it's your capital city. I want to stress that. Wherever you are in the state of Minnesota, this is your city. So you have two. You live in one, or you might live in a rural area, but the capital city is yours. And if you know me, let me know. I will give you the best tour of the state capital you've ever had. I call it the Shawn Towle Magical Mystery Tour. And I show you different things that you don't even know are there. In fact, here's one of my secrets. Did you know that the state capital is infested? It is. It's infested with rodents. Yeah. Come by. I'll go by there one day and I'll take some pictures. You'll know. I can find them every day. There's rodents in the
You're
state
talking
capital.
about politicians, aren't you?
No, I'm not. That would be lobbyists, by the way. No, actually, It's Cass Gilbert. All right. You're making me betray the secret. Cass Gilbert designed the Capitol and has very many image-oriented things. So there's an underlayment. I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know my architectural terms, but where the balconies are, there's actually an eagle. All right. And then next to the eagle are two sets of pocket gophers that sit like this. And they have sections. They're made out of metal, or plaster. And they're all around the Capitol Rotunda. When you look at the gate going into both chambers, there it is. A nice little gopher up in the top corners. But there's more. Stay tuned. And you've been told.
Yeah!